Well, I'm somewhat disappointed in that the court could have ruled what he did rule, that is, that there's no jurisdiction here, some 6 months to a year ago. The reason he could have...
Back when this all started?
Yes, the reason he so could have ruled is because both parties, the attorneys for the other side, myself, filed extensive legal briefs on the question of the court's jurisdiction, and then had a pretrial conference. At that time, he should have ruled, rather than have us go to the expense of flying in witnesses from different parts of the country and having parents stand out in the hall away from their jobs and students away from their schools.
Well, what are you going to do now?
I will wait until I hear and see his written opinion. At that time, we'll get together with the plaintiffs and let them decide whether or not we should appeal the question of the jurisdiction of the court.
Or go to a state court?
There's been some talk about going to the state court on each and every case that involves school paddling.
This would cost millions, wouldn't it?
Yes, millions, and I would think more than one attorney for
The official name for a Metro Squad in Tarrant County would be the Organized Criminal Intelligence Unit. Now, such a unit would do more than just pool information. It would have the facilities to conduct investigations on its own with sophisticated equipment, well-trained manpower, and the facilities to do a job all over the county upon the request of each individual police department. I asked Arlington Police Chief Herman Perry exactly why he favors such a Metro Squad.
Well, the idea of Metro or a combined effort on the area police departments is something that, of course, I've been interested in for years, is mainly the cooperation and the pooling of information where it can be given to any department or all departments in the area. And this is a big benefit because you don't have duplication.
Would this save you time in clearing cases?
Yes, we think it would, with a specialized group gathering intelligence data. We think it would.
Would these people be specially trained?
Yes, they'd have to be specially trained, and there's already being talked about some special training for these people.
The Metro Squad idea seems to be working in Dallas County. Law enforcement officials over there with whom I've talked seem to be well pleased with the squad's progress. There is no such thing as a Metro Squad in Tarrant County, and it may be 6 to 8 months before such a force can be initiated. The problem is money. It takes a lot of it to train all these people, to buy all this sophisticated equipment, and to get the whole movement on the road. But hoping for a federal grant, police chiefs, district attorney's officials, sheriff's officials in Tarrant County hope that someday soon the Metro Squad, or Organized Criminal Intelligence Unit, can be a viable force for law and order. Jay Lewis, Channel 8 News on the Move, Arlington.
This is probably the most beleaguered building in North Texas. It is the Fort Worth headquarters of the CAA, the Community Action Agency. The agency is funded by the Office of Economic Opportunity and has as its purpose for existence the mobilization of community resources to aid the poor. What that means is they organize poor people into groups for self-improvement, teach them what services and rights they have and how to go about using them wisely. The services range from helping people get driver's licenses to the Head Start program in the schools to emergency food and medical assistance, and potentially on to such areas as legal services and other viable community action functions. At the helm of the agency for the past 4.5 years has been Clem Constantine. He has recently been asked to resign and will leave the board at the end of this month. Probably the most controversial figure in the agency is Planning Director Paul Sims. The CAA Board of Directors has also asked that Sims and David Payton, Director of Operations, resign from their respective positions with the agency. The Board of Directors, all volunteers and comprised of approximately equal participants from governmental bodies, service groups, and poor neighborhoods, say that it asked for the 3 staff people to leave because of bad advice provided by those staff people in the past. Without getting into a long list of rumors and allegations, the board has rendered to me, though no one will be quoted personally, a number of instances where they have taken actions on staff advice which later proved embarrassing or at least bad business practice. The entire problem was submitted recently to OEO officials in Dallas, the control agency. I have talked with those officials and found they think the problems here in Fort Worth could be solved with no serious injury to anyone. They do tend to indicate that at least as much responsibility for the situation lies with the board of directors as with the staff, implying that the board should long ago have begun paying closer attention to staff actions. I should note here that board membership changes, and thus much of the blame for board action lies with people who are no longer participants. The last time the board met publicly, they were shouted into adjournment by a group of young people whom board members say have been misled about board actions and motives. The young people say they were there to protest possible loss of neighborhood services and to hear why the board wanted to dismiss Paul Sims. There is another meeting of the board tonight. It is hoped the board will make public its exact reasons for seeking to replace its top staff personnel. We'll be there and will report on tonight's 10 o'clock news. Jerry Taft, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
I think that our ball club has played very well. We've gotten some breaks, and we've been able to take advantage of a few breaks. I know that so far the other clubs have opened the door for us sometimes, and I'm getting a little bit discouraged reading the unearned runs in the paper because I like to look at that scoreboard, and at the end of 9, if I'm ahead, I don't really care how I get them. But the other clubs have opened the door for us a little bit. But by the same token, our ball club has come through and capitalized on the breaks and gotten the base hit when we needed it. So our boys have played well, and they've done a good job so far. I know that the season's early yet. We have a long way to go. I said this after the first ball game, and I'll probably be saying it in the middle of the season or toward the latter part of the season. I know that we've played well, and things have gone well for us, and I know that some of these days we're going to have some bad days, but we'll just keep going the way we are, and we're very happy with it.
I think it's going to be a great game.
You will play?
Well, I will play. Yes, I will. I always look forward to playing with what is considered to be the best talent. And I hope that we, as the ABA All-Stars, will be able to play up to our best. There have been some people that have been hurt, and I just hope that they're all ready to play by then. Of course, every day we get to see, or every Sunday we got to see the NBA play, so everybody knows how good they can play. I think we have some very outstanding ball players here in the ABA, and it's just a matter of exposure, and people haven't seen them. My personal opinion is that if you can play basketball, you can play anywhere with anybody, and this will be something that will be brought out on the 28th.
Over 300 members of the Metropolitan Opera Company arrived in Dallas today for a virtual opera festival beginning tonight through Saturday night at the State Fair Music Hall. There will be 4 separate operas performed, including the famous Carmen and Aida. Many of the largest name stars had already arrived in Dallas and were not here for these flights this morning. They are Rosa Baldani, Richard Tuckey, Pilar Lorengar, and Robert Merrill. They will be performing in Carmen tonight, the first opera to be presented. The biggest name who was on hand was Franco Corelli, the tenor from Aida. Some of the other featured persons here were Ivanka Mayal and the assistant manager of the Metropolitan Opera. That is assistant manager to Mr. Bing himself. All in all, it looks like quite a 3 days packed with culture for Dallas citizens. This is Roger McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move at a very noisy Love Field.
Well, there are orders that are illegal and contrary to the laws of war and the regulations and rules of the armed services. And of course, there's a very fine line there, but it's a very clear one, very distinct one.
Would then you place the blame on the superior officer for giving out an illegal order if it was questioned by his subordinates?
Yes, if a Marine superior officer or staff non-commissioned officer issued an illegal order and it was contested, he'd be held responsible.
Does this carry over to other branches of the service?
Oh, I can't speak for them, but in general, it certainly does. It applies to any military force that's fighting under the laws, rules, regulations of this country.
Mrs. Howard, what is your reaction to the proposals in this new budget?
Well, of course, we're not very happy with the proposals that they have for teachers for this next year.
Well, what are the problems with the proposals?
Well, what management is proposing is that they spend the next 2 years getting all teachers on step.
On step means what? I'm sorry.
Well, we have many teachers in the Dallas school system who are not on step according to the salary schedule, the index schedule that the board adopted last summer. And so we would like to see every teacher in Dallas on the proper step according to that index.
And this is not allowed for in the new budget?
No, it is not.
They say that I'm not able to communicate with the representatives of the poor. I think if there's any one thing that I can do is to communicate with poor people. And I think the fact that is the real key to it is that interracial cooperation and harmony, which somehow keeps people divided and makes for poverty also, cannot be obtained without some social changes which will eliminate institutionalized racism. Racism is the key to it.
Are you saying then that you are being removed because of what you call institutionalized racism?
Right.
As I understand the policy, it urges all SMU community members to abstain from alcoholic beverages. It emphasizes to students the importance of state and local laws which prohibit persons under 21 years of age from using alcohol, and that covers 82% of the SMU students. And it places the personal responsibility of using alcohol or not using it on the remaining persons, stating that disciplinary action will be initiated by the university for those who neglect their responsibility. In effect, the report says that the disciplinary approach to the alcoholic problem does not work, that the university hopes that through making people personally responsible, through providing counseling and medical guidance, the university's goal, which is to prevent people from having alcoholic problems, will be accomplished.
One is 792 feet long, 633 feet wide, and 208 feet high, has 115 drinking fountains, 86 restrooms, costs $25 million, and seats 65,000 rabid Dallas Cowboy football fans. You guessed it, Texas Stadium behind me. Today, Texas Stadium was open to the press and to some of the public for the first time. Though it's a far piece from completion, they hope it will be by August 14th. I talked with Texas Stadium General Manager Bert Rose about the exciting new Cowboy home.
Well, we are, Jerry. Based on present construction estimates, we expect to be in Texas Stadium for our first game on August 14th.
How is the sale of season bondholders coming along?
Very steady. In terms of tickets, it represents about 22,000, and in terms of dollars, about 14 million.
I understand you have a new plan for potential buyers of bonds at this moment.
Yes, we have submitted a new financing plan to the Irving City Council for approval, where we would have a $6 down payment and $6 a month. We feel that this brings the bonds within everyone's financial range, and we want to broaden the base and make NFL football available to all.
How are your parking facilities, both getting in and parking and getting out of Texas Stadium?
Well, we'll have 15,000 paved parking spots divided into two color-coded areas, blue and red. The blue area is the area immediately surrounding the stadium, and that will be for bondholders only. Then the balance of the parking will be for individual game purchasers. All parking will be $2 per game. As far as ingress and egress is concerned, until we have a little experience, it's difficult to say. But like anything else, we know that our traffic flow will improve as people learn how to use our road system.
By now, everyone is familiar with the number of drinking fountains, 115, and restrooms, 86, and quite a few concession areas, too, correct?
Yes, we have 84 food service locations. We don't think anyone will go hungry or thirsty in the stadium.
How about the heating on cold days, Bert?
The heating is a thing in the future. The stands have been wired for radiant heating, and that's a definite add for future years. I don't think there's another stadium in the nation that has that feature. However, because of our roof and the general enclosed feeling in the stadium, I think it'll be a good deal warmer than an open stadium would be.
Would you then, as president of Texas Stadium, state unequivocally that this is the best $25 million bargain around for a football facility?
It's an NFL champion.
Clint Mergerson today told the press that because they want Texas Stadium to be the very best, the addition of acoustical material to the roof of the stadium might prevent the Cowboys from being ready for their August 14th opener in the Salesmanship Club game, which makes you know that once it is ready, and if you'll knock on wood, it could be August 14th, behind me, Texas Stadium will be the finest football stadium in the country. This is Jerry Haynes for Channel 8 Sports.
In view of the comments of Mr. Constantine concerning Mr. Payton's ability to perform, and in view of the fact that Mr. Payton had not been reprimanded by this board previously, the board voted to withdraw its request for his resignation and request Mr. Payton to meet with the executive committee to receive guidelines for the future performance of his position.
Well, of course, the school board, the new school board, has already voiced their opinion that teachers are the most important part in the school system. John Plath Green, the new board president, has made this statement. And if they really believe that teachers are the most important role in the school system, then I believe that they will be willing to fund an adequate, livable salary for teachers.
Almost 10,000 hogs have been killed and buried in Texas since March of last year. The reason is hog cholera. There is an epidemic of hog cholera in many states now. Texas is included. The whole state of Texas is under a quarantine to prevent the moving of hogs interstate or within the state. 31 counties in all are under a federal quarantine within the state of Texas. In north central Texas, the members of U.S. Animal Health Division are headquartered in Fort Worth now to work the areas affected by the quarantine here in the Fort Worth, Dallas area. The members of the team thus far have eradicated or eliminated about 12 herds here in Tarrant County already. Heading up the federal team here is Dr. S. Wayne Bilby. He says there is no danger to the consumer.
There's no particular danger as far as human health is concerned in the processing of the meat that might be infected. Would not have any ill effects upon any human being. About the only problem is the economics of the individual who has the sick hogs.
Since a concerted drive against hog cholera began last year in Texas, the federal government has paid more than $250,000 in indemnities to hog farmers. Early next week, another herd of 197 hogs will be eliminated here in Tarrant County due to cholera. Dr. Bilby said he could not say when the quarantine might be lifted in this area or in the state. He did say, however, that hopefully hog cholera will be eliminated after the different phases of the cholera eradication program are finished. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.